Whenever you are, Stephen.
Minutes?
Good with me.
You're good, Greg.
We'll call to order the Tree Advisory Commission meeting on this November 3rd, 2022. We'll ask for a roll call. Welcome all commissioners as well as guests. So welcome Jordy, and we'll hear from you later. Let's go around the room, starting with Joe.
Joe Stadheim, City Engineer.
Tom Romaine, Commissioner.
Greg Dearson, Commissioner.
Paul Eglund, Commissioner.
Tom Schmitz with the Park and Recreation Department.
Jeff Huffman, Public Works.
Thank you. We will approve our agenda, or ask for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Seeing none, we'll move to our minutes. September 2022 Tree Advisory Commission meeting minutes are there. Any questions, comments, or looking for approval?
I move the approval of the agenda from September's meeting.
Minutes.
Minutes.
It's all right.
I'll second it.
Motion and second to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Seeing none, that motion passes. The minutes are approved. Under old business, we've got some information about the city reimbursement programs and budget. So Joe?
Yep. Mr. Chairman and Commission members, to date, we've reimbursed for 54 plantings and/or removals of EAB trees for a total reimbursement amount of $4,762.08. We have an unused balance budget amount of almost that same amount, $4,783.66. So we'll see how many more reimbursements come in between now and the end of the year. And come January, we can decide what to do with that leftover balance.
I have a couple comments on the budget. I had some time to look at this yesterday while I was sitting here. And of the trees planted and reimbursed, in the reimbursement program, 29 of them were replacements for trees of emerald ash borer infestation. So my personal guess is that this is going to keep going as the infestation keeps going on, and we don't have, I don't know how successful we would be in yet another grant. I was very surprised that we got a second grant from the Division of Forestry, because it usually doesn't happen. And I think we have a good case to once again carry over when it's the appropriate time, because, and I don't know, nobody knew yesterday if we had been billed for the by the University of Minnesota for the pruning workshop.
Chair and members, it's not in the report here, our financials, so that we will have that expense showing up in our financials here before the end of the year.
And that will push us about to a little bit over $7,000, which is our base budget. And that's the first time we've spent that since I can remember. And I think that with the continued infestation of emerald ash borer in the city, we're probably going to need that carryover to do our business and reimburse people who are planting trees to replace what we've lost.
Yeah, so I would suggest that be an action item at our next meeting, the first Thursday of January.
That's the end of my comments.
Joe, is there any estimate on how many of those were from summer, late summer Have we finished getting in those requests for this year yet?
I'd have to look back to see when when those reimbursements came in. We did have quite a few the last couple months that processed through my office, but I don't have exact numbers.
And we'll know in January if that pretty much cleans out our budgeted amount for the year, so. But that's something to keep an eye on because I've never seen this page get this full either, so. Thank you, Joe.
Yep.
5.2, PUC update. Anything from Derek Nelson, anywhere else?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yep. Then 5.3, Emerald Ash Borer EAB update. Joe, anything?
Yep. Mr. Chair, Commission members, so Tree Story was the contractor that did the EAB boulevard removals as part of that DNR grant. They removed 240 trees. They are done. They are cleaned up. City Street Department staff is working on grinding out the stumps kind of in earnest, as Jeff can have an update on that, so.
Yeah, we have 91 stumps that are ground out already and filled, so we're working on them.
So then as part of that grant, we will be replanting the replacement trees as well, and that is scheduled to start in the spring. And Leading Edge Landscapes from New Ulm here has gotten that contract, so they're ready to start in the spring. So project went, I would say, fairly well.
Are you racing winter with the stump grinding, so to speak?
Yes, we are. Yeah, we're trying to keep on them as best we can and see how many we can get done before the ground freezes, so,
But that's that's been a
yeah,
pretty aggressive start, so.
yeah.
Any questions for anyone on those? Okay. Thank you. 5.4, Buckthorn update. U of M Covered Up Program Conservation Corps crew. Jordy, anything to share with us today as our guest?
Jordy Veit. I don't have much to share. They're still waiting on the final outcome of funding, which they were hoping to find out towards the end of October. So I'm guessing they're still waiting to hear back. So the site's just sitting now for the winter. Then we'll go from there based on what they do, if they get more funding, and then we'll look forward to what they decide to do come the spring. Then if we're gonna make any changes if they get funding, or if we're gonna just keep gathering the same data. So hopefully the next meeting or so, that by then for sure I should have additional information on that. So otherwise, if there's any questions or anything, if anybody has anything, but. Okay.
No questions. Thank you, Jordy.
I can just add a little bit, Chair and members, about Buckthorn in general. We continue to loan out weed wrenches at the recreation center and sell the daubers, the herbicide applicators. So that continues throughout this past season. And now, November, the best time of the year to kill or eradicate buckthorn. I do not have an update from our volunteer corps, including Dr. Ellen Van Cura, but those are two things I wanted to mention.
Thank you, Tom. Our 5.5 is the Big Tree Contest. It was a Hickory this year. Tom, if you want to share the
Sure.
winner.
The judges outnumbered the number of nominations, so it was Paul, Arlen, and I, and we measured the Dvorak nomination and the Stelgis nomination. The Dvorak was 82 inches in circumference, and the Stelgis was 54 inches in circumference. So the winner of the Big Tree Contest this year would be Brandon Dvorak. So I'm assuming that they've been notified. And
Yes, you see in the packet there some of the documentation. That letter went out September 27th to Brandon Dvorak and explaining to him how to proceed with claiming the prize and so on. So we'll see how that progresses. We've not heard anything recently from him. And then the only other thought for your consideration, whether you choose to act on it at this meeting or a future meeting is up to you, but you have on page 12 of 16 in the packet, you have the history of the Big Tree Contest, with this year, 2022, being the 14th annual. And then any thoughts you might have about next year, 2023, or the future of the Big Tree Contest.
It might be a good year to look for the big ash again before there are no ash to nominate.
Does emerald ash borer infestation disqualify the tree or not?
It's
If it's
all it's got
standing,
to do
it's
is,
measured, is what
I
the-
would think that if the tree is alive at the time we measure it, that's a contestant.
Okay.
You're gonna let Jeff measure stumps and make an entry that way?
And aside, when I was a very young forester, the state had a big tree project, and when I took my first station at Waconia, my predecessor wasn't interested in the contest, so there was a big stack of nominations, and a lot of them were elm trees. And by the time I went out there to measure them, my comment was, it must have been a pretty big tree, judging from the size of the stump. So let's not do that with the ash trees.
All that was left, huh? We could, birch is listed there, and we could go with a paper birch or a river birch.
Yeah. And, well, would you want to limit it to river birch, or do you want to have river birch and paper birch?
We had 2 hickory entrants this year. And there's at least 2 of each of those.
Okay. Well, I would prefer to encourage people to use river birch instead of paper birch in town. So
I would agree with
we have to pick a species.
We should have one ready to go for
Yeah.
next February, March.
Our next meeting is January, so
Fire goes out in,
yeah, I would think we would want to get the flyer out in the spring, Our second meeting of the year, it's the odd months, so March would be our second meeting. So I would suggest if you're not going to decide now, maybe even in January. And I don't know about Commissioner Romaine's comment related to ash. It was year one, 2009, that was the species. If you would want to repeat, it might also be, the ability to promote ash in a number of different manners, including the fact that the boar is here and that there are programs available for replacing ash trees. And I don't know. It's entirely up to you guys.
Well, it doesn't have to be a species for species reimbursement. They can plant any species of tree that's on the
Right, I was just
the
saying.
city list no longer contains ash trees.
Right, I'm just saying it could be a kind of a double promotion. The Big Tree Contest is an ash species, and we also have an emerald ash borer infestation, so you could be promoting ash in multiple ways if you choose to do that at a future meeting.
how does it sound to do river birch in year 15 and then recycle that list through, do ash the next year?
If
You
there are
could-
any left.
And you could play find the last living ash in town. But I would like the river birch and then promote that as a good replacement tree.
It is.
And we could push that through the next year. And then maybe either go look for ashes in '24 as the tree and then continue that awareness and promotion.
Yeah, so if you want to choose the 23 species at this meeting, you certainly can.
I would make a motion that we have a contest to look for the biggest river birch in the city in
I would
2023.
second that. There are some candidates I know, so.
No other discussion deemed necessary? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same? So 2023, as per the motion, River Birch will be the Big Tree Contest candidate. And you can start looking for them right now. But that would be, that's a good species to promote as a planted one. We'll try to coordinate that together. Any other
I have no more.
good listed species to replace emerald ash with, or the ashes with emerald ash trees, the green ash trees with? That'd be something else that we could think about promoting as we push for that measurement or the big tree contest. So I'd ask you to think about that and kind of, maybe we can include 8 or 10 or 12 that would be useful, boulevard or in yards, that will likely survive. Because we don't want a repeat of the elm and the ash cycle with a third round.
Yeah, there are many trees on the city tree list, and there are suggestions by size for where these trees should go, and we should encourage people to plant a variety of species, because a lot of places where elm trees were lost in the 80s and 90s were replaced with green ash because it's easy to propagate and it grows fast.
Thank you, Tom. Back to you, Tom, for 5 point,
I have
sorry.
been
Yeah,
very
5,
busy
6.
since the last meeting, and I have not done anything other than study the map. But
Okay.
after the third week in November, things should slack off a little bit, so I might be able to do some work on that. So if somebody wants to walk around a lot of city property, the invitation is open.
I would do that with you. I volunteered last time, but I didn't hear anything yet, so.
I was, like I said, very busy, and I am
I-
over-volunteered, and I hope to remedy that.
Well, maybe there won't be any snow all winter, and you'll be able to walk around all winter. But having the map is very valuable to us, so we'll look forward to some identification work through the winter now. 5.7, the tree pruning workshop. Tom, report, maybe Jeff?
On Columbus Day, or the traditional Columbus Day, we met at the hockey arena, and had about 30 people. Do you have an exact number, Jeff?
I had 15 from the street department, 6 from park, PUC, and 1
Okay.
engineering.
And we had a classroom event of about an hour and a half, and then we hit the streets with a couple of arborists, and they did a little bit pruning examples for us, and I think it went very well, and then pretty much after the morning, by the time lunch was over, it was pretty much a done deal. But did you get any comments from people who had?
Yeah, a couple of my employees came up and said that it was good to go through and get a refresher course again, and some of the younger guys it was a good course for them to get some good information on how to prune a tree. So I think it's very helpful. It was a very good class, I thought.
Do you think it was worthwhile?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
well, that's good.
I thought it was informative to me by the
Yeah.
walk around with the arborist,
Yep.
and they mentioned how they did things and what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
It was informative to me, and I've been around pruning trees for a while, so thought it was useful.
The one tree I thought we had best move on before he pruned that thing down to a shrub.
Any suggestion on a timeline as we look forward, maybe the next time to recycle that training through again? What would be an estimate from anybody?
Every other year, every couple of years, you know,
About
I
every,
wouldn't say every year, I would say maybe
every 2 years would
2 or-
seem reasonable. I would
Yep.
vote for it. I don't
Yep.
know.
Yeah, well, it just depends on the turnover of your crews.
Yeah, it does.
Right.
Well, and even if it's the same crew or similar crew, maybe different topics could be expounded upon and discussed. And
I would leave it to the people who work in the groundwork, or the, if you will, tree by tree, or the arboreal. What subjects do we need to look at as future workshops?
Well, we'll put it out for 2 years from now, and maybe if it's a third year instead of two, we'll take your opinion on that, because certainly as we replace a lot of trees,
Might be busy taking down ash trees.
yeah,
2 years.
2 years might be almost too quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for putting that on. It was a good workshop. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Tom. That was, appreciate it.
One of the things that I'm sort of concerned about is the city has a policy on boulevard trees. And it's good that we did the pruning workshop, but there's in ordinance, the landowner that occupies that piece of boulevard is by ordinance responsible for the management of that tree. So
It's,
it's sort of a gray area to me right now, so.
it read to me like the adjacent landowner who is reimbursed to plant a tree under permit actually owns a tree and is required to prune it up to this proper height. So there's a lot of people that could be trained that we didn't reach. If we're talking about all the landowners in New Ulm, or house owners.
That might be something to look at as we, especially as we continue to replace trees.
Yeah, the pruning of young trees is very important, so I don't know if one handout is sufficient to instruct the landowners on, or the house owners on
Sure.
proper maintenance of trees.
Yeah, and that's as the city's forest shifts to younger trees, we might need to be more aware of them as they're in those early stages.
You can make a lot less problems if you tend the trees when they're young. So it's worth considering how to have that done. Are we going to offer instructions to people inclined or not?
Well, it's something we should discuss. If people have to take care of the trees on the boulevard, and the city has that expectation, or it's in ordinance, then it might behoove us to start thinking about workshops on people, for people, so that they have some idea what they're doing in pruning, other than just complying with the height requirements that the city has of 8 feet on the sidewalk and 13 feet on the streets. So you can prune to 8 feet without a permit, as I understand, but if you go above 8 feet, then you have to get a permit to prune.
I don't know. I didn't read it close enough. I thought you needed one just to prune it, but I may be wrong.
I pruned, the sugar maples in our neighborhood have got really whacked by the droughts. They had a lot of dieback, so I was pruning at heights other than 13 feet, so I put in a request for a permit.
Mr. Chair and commission members, it's 13 feet is the, when, anything over 13 feet, a permit is required for pruning, so,
Okay, under that, you don't need a permit.
correct.
Okay.
Well, we'll keep that in mind as we maybe plan forward for some of those pruning things. Is there space for, you had 30 at that group? Would there be space for another 10, 20, 30 people?
If we were to open this to the general
Well,
You know,
population, it's going to be a bigger audience, I would guess.
yeah. Has potential to be a big audience.
We
What
have
people are
other
inclined to
facilities that can accommodate larger crowds, if you want to do that, yes.
Well, just as another possible venue, do you think the home shows will return, or are they?
Yes, they are coming back in March of '23.
Okay, so that would be a good venue to put on a presentation on Boulevard tree care.
that might be a better
That's-
avenue to catch more people, too.
You could gauge the interest in it if it's somebody's willing to come to a free workshop at the home show. And there's more to Boulevard tree care than just pruning. There's watering, and then there's protection from lawnmower blight and
Weed eater damage.
weed whacker blight. Yeah.
Lawnmower blight, huh? Okay, we'll keep those in mind as we, especially, you think next year, home show?
Yes, the home show is scheduled for March of '23 in the Civic Center, as is the camper show and the farm show.
Thank you. To the 5.8 utility billing insert, and considering next month's topic. So we've got the invoice and the stuffer from August.
Okay, we had some discussions at the pruning workshop with Nate and with Jeff about perhaps moving, if we could, a little bit later in the fall when Streets is out beginning to do some pruning. And sometimes that generates controversy with people who have trees in their boulevard that Streets is pruning. And so I thought, and Jeff and Nate endorsed the idea that we should see if we could work with Derek to get it, say, in September instead of August, and work with the street department to come up with a public information sheet on when they're going to be pruning and why and how and everything else that may deter some of the comments they get from people who all of a sudden see their tree being attacked by people with chainsaws. So
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. Let's get a little information out on why we trim them and, you know, how, so it would be good.
So you're suggesting altering the August schedule to September or October, or just
September would probably be better than October.
We could be in October too.
Okay.
'cause
Okay.
We
usually-
should contact
usually in
Derek to
November
see
after
if,
Thanksgiving is when we start trimming, depending on snow and, you know, it all depends on the weather.
I'll check with the finance department on that and report back to you.
all right.
Yeah, since that's next year's stuffers, I think he's been open to that before too, that they can shift some of those.
Mm-hmm. Don't we traditionally do one in April also?
April and August has been the pattern.
Do you want to begin thinking about the springtime stuffer? Is April an appropriate month for the tree advisory commission?
Well, you know, I think that April has worked well for us because we're talking about the kind of tree care that needs to be taken through the spring and the summer. So we've generally talked about something like tree selection and tree planting and then tree care through the season.
Okay, well,
Kind of tie in with what we're talking about on boulevard tree management.
okay, then I'll check with the finance department to make sure they have April of '23 reserved for the tree advisory commission.
And that's usually the big tree announcement measurement.
Yes,
On the flip side.
Yeah, we do a two-sided, correct. One side would be the big tree contest. Second side, other matters you'd like to promote.
And this year it might be watering in the spring. We'll see.
Yep.
Okay. To number 6, any new business?
2023 officers. Chair and vice chair is what you would need to identify at this meeting, please.
Well, are you on the,
Should I set my gavel aside since my term is up?
well, you should not be running the
That's what I
the
mean.
voting for the.
I'll defer to the
chair.
vice chair.
So, are there any nominations for chair? Are there any nominations for chair?
I'm the only one that can nominate?
Yeah, you can nominate. But you're the only one
I can.
that can declare.
I think Tom should run for chair.
I am not willing to be chair.
Not willing to be chair.
I will.
You will be chair.
Yeah.
By default, okay. And Greg. I don't, okay. I'm not.
Sorry.
Greg Dearson. Greg Dearson. Then I'm officially nominating you for a chair. for
Okay, I would
2020.
second that nomination. So we have a motion for Greg Dearson that's been seconded. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? So hearing none, I would entertain a unanimous ballot for Greg Dearson as chair. So anybody who would like to support that signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, congratulations, Greg.
Thank you.
Then you have to go
We also
through
need
this.
a nomination for vice chair.
I am willing to serve as vice chair.
In that case, I would nominate Tom Romaine for vice chair.
Second. Any other nominations? Seeing none, I'd ask to make that nomination unanimous. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Mr. Romaine, you are the vice chair, once again. Our elections are complete.
And I'll report those to the administration office. Lisa Pelzel manages those rosters.
And Paul has agreed, as well as I have, for another term on the tree commission.
I'll
So,
make sure the mayor's
set.
aware of that also. Thank you.
and then the others are through 24 and 23 and 24. So our roster is set for 2023.
Correct.
Okay. Any other new business, commissioners? Okay. Our dates of the next meeting in 2023, January 5th, and the others as listed. 4 p.m. here. Any other agenda items, please email them 1 week prior. With no further business, we are adjourned.